Photographer of the Year, let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Shellda Podcast. And I am joined today by none other than the man behind the incredible brand Paintball Nerd, Zyzek. How are you today?
Hi, Dan. I'm good, man. And that intro with Alex saying, the photographer of the year, that just got me juiced up, man.
Man, so there's actually a funny story behind that. I guess I'll share that quick. So when that happened in Vegas, Sal Chavez of like BFP Gear and Dynasty, all the media, he put that clip together, put some like incredible music behind it. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, before I started this podcast, I was looking to do like an intro, and I sent Sal a text. I'm like, hey, do you still have that clip? He was like, yeah. He sent it over, and it had the music behind it. Of course, like, it's copyrighted, so I can't use it on YouTube. And so I sent Alex Frazier a message. I'm like, hey, this is going to sound so weird, but can you please send me a recording of yourself saying, the whole bit again? And so he was such a trooper. He sent me like 4 or 5 like renditions of like him saying it and like all different. I love Alex so much, and that just goes to show like the person that he is. He'll go above and beyond for anybody.
Well, shoot, man, I'm gonna have him do a little Paintball Nerd intro, because right now, you know how I came up with the sound for Paintball Nerd's intro podcast?
No,
it's so you know how an autococker, when you shoot it, the back block goes back and forth?
Yeah.
But if you hold the bolt and pull the trigger, the cocking rod goes forward. Okay. So now it's in the uncocked position. And if you pull the trigger at that point, it just goes chick, chick. It's a beautiful sound. It's my favorite sound in paintball.
Yes.
So I got my autococker, that one right there on the wall.
Yeah.
And I recorded that noise, and then I just said Paintball Nerd into the mic, and that's my intro. But yours is way better. Way better.
No way. Like you're before like I got into the whole, paintball scene for like the second time in my life. I binged so much Paintball Nerd, and like that, little clip of the autococker and you saying it was like such an iconic, like I look forward to it every time I was on YouTube.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
You are a paintball nerd yourself.
I am, not to the extent of some of the people in the industry and like some of the folks that you have on your show.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing about being a nerd of anything, is like there's so many different levels of it, right? Like people nerd out about the different markers. Some people nerd out about the different jerseys or like the soft goods and the headbands. And so I think there's a nerd in everybody that's involved in the sport.
Varying degrees of nerdship in this sport. But if you play paintball, you're a nerd no matter what. No matter how you try and slice it or escape it, you are LARPing.
That's what you're so true.
You are a nerd.
Yeah, I get that all the time from like folks at my, my real job. They're like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, you doing that paintball thing again? I'm like, yep, doing the paintball thing again. And they just have no idea.
What's your real job?
So I'm a project manager. So I'm a project manager in like the technology space. So a lot of like software and application base.
Pretty nerdy,
right? Yeah. Speaking of nerdy things, I would love to know more about where did like the Paintball Nerd idea come up, and like how did that brand start for you?
So the term Paintball Nerd has been kind of thrown about amongst the industry as a term of endearment for our best customers. I mean, they said it at Die. It's like, well, the paintball nerds are going to love this. This is for the paintball nerds. We're going to make this gun for the paintball nerds. At Push, we're making goggles, and it's like, the paintball nerds are going to love this. So it's always been part of the vocabulary ever since I've been in paintball. Paintball nerd is something I and my sphere of influence has said is paintball nerd. So I was working at Push, and that's with Brian Bonini and Chris Lasoya and Miko at the time. And, the terms being thrown around, and I thought I wanted to make a paintball news channel. I did want to make a news channel. In fact, I wanted to have an outlet to write creatively for paintball because I thought I enjoyed writing until I did this. And I spent a bunch of time writing, and I realized people don't really read too much anymore, online anyways. You know, if you're putting articles online, the chances of someone reading it, or a majority of paintball enthusiasts reading it, is pretty low.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things, the magical things that Frazee did with Gap magazine, is he created a medium that people wanted to read, right? And thankfully I got to be in that magazine in the first issue. I wrote a little article there. But anyways, I wanted a creative outlet to write paintball articles, and I did that. And it just didn't gain any steam. It didn't, my closest friends in paintball would read it and, send me texts saying that was great. But it just didn't have the payoff that I wanted. Maybe I wanted attention, maybe I wanted eyes on it, and it didn't provide that. And it got to a point where I was just kind of tired of writing. So I just kind of shelved it and didn't do anything with it. It was called Paintball Nerd. It was an Instagram channel. I had a website with a blog, with articles, and I just shelved it for a while. And I was working at Push, so I was really busy with other things and just kind of forgot about it for a while. And one day, Mika was like, why don't you do a podcast? Everyone, why don't you just do a podcast? And I was like, no, because, I want to do it the right way. I want to have a studio like Joe Rogan, and, I want to like have people come to my studio, and I want it to be in person. I think when you do a web type podcast, there's a huge disconnect there. And I was so wrong about that, and Mika was like, okay, fine, don't do it. That's just how he is. Like, okay, we don't want to do it. He's not going to argue with you. But, he inceptioned me to do that. So I said, why don't I just give it a shot? Whatever. So I started calling some friends, in the industry. I'm like, hey, you want to hop on a podcast? You want to just talk about paintball and I'll film it? And they're like, sure. That's how Paintball Nerd, as you know it today, was born.
Wow.
And, through that, I was like, I got to figure out how to make money with this. So then I tried to open up an online store. I did open up an online store, and, I through that growth opportunity, I discovered I don't have the type of capital to compete with Lone Wolf or ANS. Like, they've got millions of dollars of inventory, and they have every brand. And, because I'm just online only, I'm not brick and mortar, the 5 companies that are going to sell to me are the friends that I have in the industry.
Yeah.
So I, Field One sold to me, HK sold to me, Sandana sold to me, Push sold to me, Travis, Infamous sold to me. But then I couldn't get Dye and GI and things like that. But even if I could, Dan, I didn't have the capital to like really have enough inventory to make it a contender. So then I transitioned into Paintball Nerd merch, and that's been pretty good for me. So that's really I'm less focusing on trying to sell other people's stuff and just trying to sell t-shirts and hoodies and hats and things.
Yeah.
And haven't done a podcast in a while, so this is a great thing to do. So
yeah, wow, that's awesome. Thanks for the history of Paintball Nerd. It's you said so many things that I would just like wanted to touch on quick. You mentioned the name Brian Bonini, and that for me is such an iconic name, because when I was first coming up in the sport, my very first job, I was working at some mechanic place, and the owner had like a corner of his store was a paintball shop, and he had a green Angel that was like a Brian edition one. And I would just go every single day and like dream about it. And I ended up saving up like a whole entire summers of work to buy that. And so like that was my first entry into like high-end markers was Angel done by Brian. Yeah.
Dude, Brian has done tremendous things for the sport. I mean, he Push, Sunday Drivers, these films laid the foundation for what a paintball film should look like. And if you were at the premiere at World Cup for um what's it called? Nothing
All
Else
That
Matters.
Matters, right?
All That Matters. Yeah, All That Matters that Miko did. And that followed kind of the framework of it. Each player had their own piece in it. Kind of borrowing from skate films as well. But Brian made these paintball films that were absolutely iconic, and they shifted your perspective as a paintball player. If you were an average guy showing up at the field playing walk-ons and you saw a push, it clicked. This is what I want to do. I want to be a professional paintball player. And Brian Bonini did that. He's also responsible for a lot of the gear that we have here in the industry today. When he was the head of R&D at Dye, he developed the elbow pads where your elbow doesn't slip into the middle between the two pads and give you a scrape. He developed those elbow pads.
Wow.
Tons of goggles. The Dye Ironman Angel, he sculpted that from clay, and they, plugged the algorithm into a machine and made it an actual aluminum body. Yeah. So he the push goggle system. I mean, geez, he's done so much. He's so much amazing stuff for the sport. Gotta love Brian.
Yeah, just a legend in the game.
Yeah.
And then the other piece I want to touch on is, it sounds like you went through so many different iterations of what Paintball Nerd was and where it is today. And I think like anything new, right, is when you have a new idea, just like you said, you're like, well, I guess I'm going to try it, right? Like Miko planted that seed, and then like any new idea, you kind of push it away and I'm not going to do that. It's crazy. And like, it just kind of festers, I bet, in the back of your mind. And so it's really cool to see all the different iterations of where you were almost like a distributor in a way and figured that part of it out, running it out of your house, and then turning it now into like a brand where you're selling merchandise. And it's, I mean, your Paintball Nerd logo is so iconic. It's so cool seeing it at events. How did that come about? Like, where did you come up with that logo?
So there's this man, a great man, Dan, a great man by the name of Brandon Lambertson.
Okay.
So when Paintball Nerd was in the infant stages, I was talking to him about a logo. He plays a little bit with Photoshop, and he's pretty savvy with that. And he's got a company called Liquid Paintball, which pioneered the two-piece barrel and the snatch grip. You know, the grip you see on the back of the guns?
Yeah.
It's standard now with most guns, but Brandon Lambertson invented that in his company Liquid Paintball. He also made the bone trigger shoe. Anyway, he's a super bright guy with great ideas, and what happens is he makes these things and people just steal them. They just start doing them. But anyways, I'm friends with Brandon, and I was telling him about Paintball Nerd, and I said, I kind of like, I'd like a logo that looks like the nerd emoji. Like if you pull up an emoji on your phone, there's this nerd one with glasses and like buck teeth. And so I want it to be like that, but I want him to have a paintball mask. And I want to have hair, kind of like some cool hair, And he's like, I got you. So he made that logo like basically first try. In fact, I want to share with you like some of the first drafts of the Paintball Nerd logo, because it's basically the same as it was back then. And when he originally made it, it was for a podcast, so he put headphones on it, but
sure.
So these are the first
check that out
iterations of the Paintball Nerd logo. So he basically made it first try. And so I took that drawing, which was not like a vector file or anything like that. Gave it to Miko, and Miko's very, very savvy with all things. Miko made it into a vector file, and it's the logo that you enjoy today.
Wow, that's so cool. That's like, as you were showing me the logos, that made me think of like all the different iterations of like the JT logos and all these companies that are, rebrand over the year and they come up with new iterations of it. That's like a t-shirt idea for you. You should bring out like a retro version of Paintball Nerd.
And I should do that. I'm going to work on that. Let me just write that down here. There we go.
So talk to me about, I believe earlier this year, last year, I recall you saying you were doing some work for Hormesis and or Gap. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. Okay, so when Gap was looking at distributing the magazines, I was, for all intents and purposes, unemployed. Paintball Nerd was my only gig, right? And most of my friends in the industry knew that I was, looking for work within the industry. So Miko and Alex were like, why don't you sell Gap? So I began selling Gap magazine to stores. And that was going to lead into a job selling Hormesis gear, headbands, and other things to stores as well. So what happened was I ended up getting a job because I needed something lucrative. So I went back to real estate investing education, which is what I do now. So I did the Gap sales for a very short period of time. And then basically the job that I have now is super demanding. It's a commission job. It's a lot of phone calls. It's very demanding on my time. So I just didn't have the time to give Gap what it deserves. So I told Alex, like, I got this job and I really can't put the attention towards this that it deserves. So he said, hey, no problem. And now Trucker Billy does that. So he handles Gap sales and Hormesis.
Okay. Wow. So it sounds like Paintball Nerd was, again, it's gone through different variations where it was at some point like your job and your source to put food on the table for your family. And now it sounds like it's turning back into an outlet of creation. I'm sure, you're going and working crazy hours because you're commission. And so I would imagine Paintball Nerd is like that release, that outlet where you can shut that part of your brain off and just turn the paintball brain back on.
100%. In fact, Paintball Nerd, if I'm being a little bit vulnerable and transparent, it never provided for my family really well. It was really spotty as far as like, is this going to be lucrative or not? Am I going to make money with this? And it was always a struggle. It was never like, I made it. This is going to be great, But for me, I find that the question of what can happen if I go all in with this eats at me more than the safety.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to do that. I tend to go all in with things, even if it looks bleak and success has a low percentage.
Sure.
And there comes a point where it's like a point of failure where it's like, okay, I gotta put this on the side and focus on my family. I got a wife and 2 kids. So as much as I want to continue kicking the can down the road and see if I can make this happen, I had to put attention towards a job, a full-time job. So, but it's good. It ends up being really good because now when I go to work for Major League Paintball and do content, it truly is fun. It's a passion thing. It's not like I need this to pay my bills or, I'm in trouble. So I've got my job now. And, when I do content at events, it's just freeing and fun because I get to have fun with it and I get paid to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
a little extra income,
That's kind of like every creator's dream, right? To get paid to create. So I so appreciate the vulnerability. I wish we would see more of that in the paintball community. I think there's such a, I don't know if masculine is the right word, but there's such a like, people just don't want to share that kind of stuff. And so I appreciate it. I think I notice it with my brand too. I did a lot of t-shirts last year with Maxed. And it's always a weird feeling when you're about to make a post on your social media where you're posting your merchandise asking for sales, like from friends and from colleagues of, hey, this is directly going to impact me and my family if you buy a t-shirt or buy a hat. It's an interesting spot to be in to do that.
Sure is, yeah. And I got to thank you, Dan, because you're one of my supporters. As soon as I've released something, you've bought from my website, and that helps out tremendously. And the reality is, though, although my sphere of influence is large, it's not sustainable to, pay my bills.
Yeah.
So it's like it'd be great, I release something and then a bunch of friends would buy my stuff because they want to support me,
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, that's great, but how do I tap into not my friends? It's great that Dan Shelley is wearing a Hormesis collab shirt, but how do I get other people to do that? And that's really the hard part, is because we're all going after the same buyers. Paintball is a pretty small pool, and not to even mention conflict of sponsorship. So some people, they'll support you, but they're never going to wear it because they can't, right?
Yeah.
So it is, it's a tough nut to crack. You look at guys like Alex and Oliver, tremendous success with Hormesis, right? And some might say that happened overnight, but the reality is it took them their entire life to be in a position to build a brand that's credible and people want to buy from. That is a lifelong commitment that they've done. And not only that, not only a lifelong commitment, impacting the industry and the sport in a way to where people want to buy from them.
Yeah.
It's not just that they've committed their life, it's that they've won everything there is to win. And they've given back a ton of different ways. So, paintball's a tough nut to crack, but it's available if you commit your entire life to it.
I mean, I think in a sense you can kind of say that about you in Paintball Nerd, right? Because like you've committed most of your life to playing, and you've got to the pro level, and then you found another way to continue growing the sport by stepping into the media side of it. So you kind of did the same thing that they did.
Well, smaller scale.
Still same conversation.
Thank you. Yeah,
of course. So you mentioned working for Major League Paintball and creating content. Tell me about that. What goes through your mind when you're creating content for Paintball Nerd and Major League Paintball?
It's been an evolution of my thought process, because when it started out, a couple of years ago, I was doing the podcast, and Darren, who runs Go Sports, or as we know it today, MLPBplus.com.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm going to have you come to Texas, and you're going to do it could have been a different event, whatever. You're going to come to this event, and you're going to do a halftime show with Quinn Nadeau of Iconic Paintball. And I was like, okay, what's that going to look like? He's like, I don't know yet. Just show up and we'll get it done. Okay. So Quinn had a scheduling conflict, and he couldn't do it. He was doing the Iconic Awards, so he couldn't do it. So Darren Sasania paired me up with Dylan Fout. Had no idea what impact that would have on Paintball Nerd and me, So he paired me up with Dylan, and he said, you guys just go make content, go do it. And I'll tell you, for that first event, there was a lot of standing behind the fence, behind the barriers, like outside the event where all the trucks are, and the pallets and everything, where the public's not allowed to go. Just us sitting behind there being like, what should we do? I have no idea what to do. And through that space of uncertainty was born Bad Lip Reading, was born the Gear Bag Tours. All the content that people enjoy that Dylan and I have done together was born in this space of, we don't know really what to do. Let's just turn on the camera and start talking to people. So it was a magical thing, just because Dylan and I fed off each other very well. He would, he kind of just like encouraged me to be a goofball. Some things I knew I was a goofball. There's some things I didn't know that I had in me that Dylan brought out of me in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty magical thing. And, you look at fast forward to today where I'm doing content solo, and it's just like, I don't think any types of uncertainty at all. I just walk around and someone approaches me. I'm like, hey, you want to be on a video? And boom, there's a piece of content right there. So it's so enjoyable today, and it's almost effortless, despite the fact, Only thing that makes it any effort is the fact that I'm not just sitting in VIP, having some cold drinks. I might rather do that at a paintball event, but this is the next easiest thing to that, because I'm interacting with all my friends. I'm making new friends. There's quite a few pro players that I don't have relationships with or didn't have relationships with, and that's Paintball Nerd's been able to change that for me, because they recognize me as a creator, and I put a phone in their face with a mic and they deliver.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thought process changes as Paintball Nerd has evolved.
Wow. I really want to unpack that, because I think you just shared a wealth of knowledge for so many people, creators, and just anyone that's trying to start out something new. And I think I've heard throughout this podcast so far is the fear of starting something and the apprehension of, well, what do we do? And I think it sounds like you and Dylan, off in the distance where no one can see, just were like, let's just start. Let's just do it and figure it out. That's so powerful. And so like anyone that's listening here, if you're wanting to start, a paintball company or jump into media, I think you've heard Paintball Nerd's voice. Just start.
Well, I've got very easy to take away advice. If I could sum everything up that I just shared with you, it'll be a mantra that Dylan and I came up with after our first event doing content together. Are you ready for it?
Let's hear it.
Listeners, are you ready for this? You gotta get a pen, get a paper, write this down. This is gonna impact your life tremendously if you implement what I'm about to tell you. Pause for dramatic effect.
Dun, dun, dun.
Done is better than perfect, and progress is better than perfection.
Wow. That's powerful.
It is powerful, especially if you live by it.
Yeah.
Be amazed what you can get done if you just get out of the analysis paralysis and start taking action. Stop overthinking it. Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it and enjoy the journey.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with content, it's going to be alive on the internet for a couple days, and the people are going to move on with their lives and forget the horrible thing that you made anyways.
Yeah.
So just do it.
Yeah, you're saying exactly what I went through with this podcast. Like the idea came up. I actually didn't have the idea to do it. I was thinking more of like doing some vlog or kind of like behind the scenes of paintball. And my wife was like, why don't you start a podcast? And I was like, that's not going to do that. That's crazy. Like there's so many podcasts out there. And like I festered with it and I was like, you know what? It sounds so cool. And I got excited about it. And then I came down here to sit down for the first interview and I was like, no way. This is so scary. Like, I don't even know what to talk about. And I just was like, I've got to rip through this first episode and just put it out there and then just try to learn from it and grow from it. So I'm literally living the advice you just shared.
Yeah. And this is just going to get so much easier. Every episode that you do, the questions are going to come more fluidly. Tangents will come easier. It's going to be great, Dan.
I appreciate that. Thanks for the words of encouragement.
Yeah.
Speaking of my wife, I'll be in trouble if I don't ask you, when are we going to get more bad lip reading?
I did one. What was this last event before World Cup? Was that Chicago?
Chicago, yeah.
I did one in Chicago solo. So here's the thing. Bad lip reading is so much easier when I've got Dylan Fout, right? Because he just like kind of panders around the event and snipers people, kind of like you do with me, sniper with the camera. He'll get people, just walking around that look funny. And you know what? It is this connection between Dylan and I where he thinks like Zyzek could make something funny out of this.
There's something here. Yeah.
So something here. So what he does is he compiles this 90-second clip of just different things that he shot that he thinks I could make a funny voiceover to.
Yeah.
And so he gives that to me and we sit, out in the parking lot or behind, where the semis are and the pallets and everything and watch it over and over and over. And I start to think of a storyline or a theme. And then I just, as soon as I come up with the first clip, or what I'm going to say in that first clip, the rest of them kind of feed off of that.
Wow.
So I sit there and he's got the camera in my face with the boom mic, and I'm looking on my phone, the 90-second video that he sent me, and I'm just talking into the mic as I see what's happening on the screen. Then he goes into the editing room, chops it all up, and there's a bad lip reading. Wow. It is infinitely harder when it's just me, because I've got, I film everything on my phone.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm going through, and a lot of times I'm very much so content driven of looking for something valuable. I'm not looking for funny things that I can make bad lip reading out of. I'm just not. I'm trying to get this interview or that interview or talk to this person. So I have to kind of turn a switch off in my mind to go around the event and film things that I think could be funny. And then I have to go through all these little thumbnails on my phone and be like, was that the funny one? Was that the funny one?
Mm-hmm.
And say, okay, and then put those on Instagram. And then I go to edit to reel, and I click voiceover on the reel and I record it. It is a huge pain in the ass to do a bad lip reading on my own. But to answer your question, I will do more. I'll find an easier way to do it.
Yeah.
And Dylan recommended CapCut and gave me this whole tutorial, and so I'm gonna do more. Just wait. They're gonna knock your socks off. The future bad lip readings, people, they're gonna knock your socks off.
I can't wait for it. I think when you guys were doing it consistently, was it last season? Some of my favorite moments, I would come home, or come back to the Airbnb or hotel from a long day at the NXL event, and I sit down and start to dumping footage, and I'm starting to edit it, and I just hear giggling on the couch, and I look over and my wife's like, have you seen Paintball Nerd's new bad lip reading? And I'll stop what I'm doing, and then we just crack up together. So we enjoyed it. It's such a special thing because it gives people a look into the event of what you normally wouldn't see, right? Even if it's something silly at the divisional, like somebody sleeping or passed out, whatever it is, you don't see that on Go Sports.
Yeah.
So it kind of really gives you an insider look of what an event is like.
I watch my own content as well. I pour over it after each day.
Yeah.
And, the bad lip readings, I'll find myself watching those a few times. And, maybe it's egotistical a little bit. But I laugh, dude. I think the things that I do on bad lip reading, I don't say it into the mic unless I think it's funny too. So when I see it matched up with, this big jack guy walking around with his gear bag, and I'm like, there's no off days, brother. And I'm like, that cracks me up,
Yeah.
Bad lip reading actually came from people watching with my mom. My mom and I used to go to parks and, public places, just anywhere. We could be at, In-N-Out Burger, and, we'd see a character, and I would just start saying what I think is on this guy's mind.
Cool.
And I would do accents and stuff like that, what I think they sound like. And so that's how bad lip reading I developed the chops for it. It was just making fun of people with my mom.
Oh, that's cool. I would have never pieced together that was some special moment that you and your mom had. That's awesome.
Totally. Yeah.
Sounds like maybe at the next event you'll have to do a bad lip reading focused just on moms. Nice homage to her,
There's plenty of paintball moms too. That'd be great. Tammy Adamson, you're in the crosshairs.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of moms I could get.
Yeah. I love that. Awesome. Thanks for giving me a breakdown of bad lip reading. I can't wait to see where to go with it.
I know.
Speaking of you creating clips, something I love to do whenever I bring somebody on that is in the paintball media is to either share a piece of content, whether it's a photo they took or a video, if it's one of our videographers. For you, I found a clip recently from World Cup, and I'd love to show it and then ask you about it and ask what your mind is. So I don't think you've seen this one yet. You don't know what I'm about to show you. So
no, I don't.
Yeah, so let's pull it up here and we'll play it.
Fired up and ready to go this morning.
So if you see me walking around and I've got my little camera rig, and you got a positive message for the paintball community, why don't you just let me know? I'll put you on the scene, okay? Put you on the internet, let you speak your piece.
Oh yeah.
Michael, you got a positive message for the paintball community?
Yes. always play more paintball. It's the greatest thing ever, and it's for everyone.
Sunday paintball.
I mean, chef's kiss, like it's positivity, and then you ended it with like Sunday paintball, so like you feel it. Like, talk me through that.
So, that was kind of a buildup. So the previous day, towards the end of the day, I was walking around and I was doing selfie footage, and a guy riding his bike thought I was filming him. He's like, "Am I gonna be in your video?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm doing a selfie." And he's like, "What? I'm not good enough to be in your video?" I'm like, "No, we can do it later. I'm just making something right now." And he kind of like rode off, and I was like, "Well, that's a missed opportunity, right?" He wanted to be in a video. So I thought maybe I should put a public announcement out there that, hey, if you want to be in a video, come up to me and I'll put you in a video. So Sunday morning, it's the beginning of the day, and my buddy Michael Gilbert, he's a tech for Lux. I also worked with him at Push Paintball. So he's in San Diego, and he worked at Push. So, easy pickings for, low hanging fruit, because he's my buddy. And I just put a camera in his face. And that's how that bit was born. I was like, I'm going to give an open invitation for someone who would like to be in a Paintball Nerd video, and I'm going to use Michael to do that. And he didn't know what was going on. He was trying to get to the field to tech guns, Yeah. But he ended up giving a positive message, which is play more paintball. And I agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's just like, it's so natural. And I think that's what I feel from all of the clips that you do. It's natural. It doesn't feel forced, and it feels genuine, because the people that you have on you're asking them genuine questions. Yeah.
It does help to have relationships in the industry. Imagine if Michael was a total stranger, would you feel the same way? Would he feel the same way? Would I communicate the same way?
Yeah.
Probably not. Maybe. And I do communicate with people that I don't know, or they're just acquaintances, and I've seen them before, but I don't have a solid, relationship with them. But I think doing the job that I do at events helps out tremendously to have relationships and know people, definitely.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I go through the same thing. There's such I don't know if it's like the media shirt I wear or if it's just holding a camera, but if I was just here locally in Austin and I went to, the local mall or hanging out place where I would go, I would be so nervous to walk up to somebody and like ask them a question or take a picture. But there's just something about being at a paintball event where, like, I don't mind walking up to somebody and be like, "Hey, can I ask you a quick question?" Or, "Hey, can I take a picture?" Or, "Can I stop you quick?" It's just, there's something there that I haven't figured out why yet.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure that out too, and I think it's it goes kind of in line with the commonality of interest that paintball players share. We're all there for the same reason. It's because we love this silly game.
Yeah.
We love this silly game, and we love the people within it. And, for the most part, everyone knows that content creators and the media are trying to gain exposure to the sport. So I think everyone's kind of bought into that vision, and they want to participate in it.
Yeah.
And granted, there are certain players that just like don't want a camera in their face, and good riddance too, because they're not great on camera, so they don't want that.
Yeah.
But they still buy into the vision. Yeah, hey, I'm not going to do that, but here's my teammate. Ask him this question.
Yeah.
So I think it has a little bit to do with the fact that we're all there for the same reasons. We all love paintball, and we all want to see the sport grow. And we know that social media and content is the way to gain eyes on it.
That's a great point. I think it all comes back to the community, and it's just a joint effort of everyone wants to see it grow and helping where they can.
Yeah, I agree.
I think one of the things that I love to do, you talked about it earlier, is like we always joke when you and I are at events, like, "Oh, like you sniped me," because I'm always like trying to take pictures of you without you knowing it. That way it's like a kind of a natural picture.
I love it.
So I have a lot of pictures. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think one of them is actually like your profile picture.
I'm fixing to make one of the recent ones a profile picture. Dude, every time you sniper me, it's like profile picture candidate right there,
That's like one of the highest honors you can give a photographer, by the way, is like when you change your profile picture to one of their pictures.
Okay,
I
well, I'll work
appreciate
on that right now, buddy.
Speaking of phones and pictures, what was it like for the first time, like when you actually were walking around an event and you had a camera in front of you? And the reason I ask is one of my early iterations of my version of Paintball Nerd is I had like a silly vlog channel a long time ago, years ago, and it was the most terrifying thing holding a camera in front of me and like talking into it just here in a room, let alone out in public. So like, how do you do that and how do you get better at that?
It's a work in progress. So I'm still getting better at it. And, I've identified what the challenge is. When I've got Dylan with me and he's filming me, he is filming me being a goofball. Let me capture this goofball, right? Let me capture this funny thing that Zyzek's doing. When I've got a selfie stick and a mic, it's like, look at Zyzek, and in my mind, look at Zyzek being goofy on his own, trying to make a funny video. So it's, after I lost Dylan, my content became less funny. That's just the reality of it. There's less funny things. It's, more interviews and it's more focused on the subject rather than it is me. Whereas, when I had Dylan following me around or Alejandra following me around with a camera, it's like I get to be kind of like this character. I get to be, this character in
become
paintball.
the paintball nerd.
I become the paintball nerd, and it's much harder to be the paintball nerd and capture the antics when you're filming yourself doing the antics.
Sure.
It feels not great. So to say, how do I do it and how do I overcome it? I'd say that I have not yet, and I'm still trying to figure that out. And I guarantee that it's mostly between my ears.
Yeah.
Right. It's mostly in my head, but that's the most powerful thing is what happens in between your ears. So I'm still getting over it, but knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
I know that it's so I'm progressively getting more comfortable doing selfie footage and making that, being comfortable about doing that, making it funny. It's much easier to be funny when someone's filming you because it's like, well, I'm not filming that. I'm just being myself, and they put it on the internet. That was them. It's a different ball of wax.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think you're spot on, right? It's the struggle between like the insecurity and also, God, what do they think of me? Like, are they judging me right now? And I think that stops so many people from doing that is the fear of judgment when honestly, they're probably looking at you like, wow, that guy's doing something really cool. Or like, I can't wait to see what that is.
Maybe, but I can't help but it creep into my head if I'm standing in, the quad or, by the 50, I'm standing in the public area where everyone's walking around and I got this selfie stick and I'm like, hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm Zyzek from Paintball Nerd being a goofball. Then it is me doing something funny and having a videographer follow me around. It's easier to be funny when I'm not filming myself.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Sounds like we have an opportunity to get some like Paintball Nerd staff or like Paintball Nerd assistants or juniors. There's got to be a name we can come up with for like someone to help you at events.
I like the term interns because that means we don't have to pay them.
Yeah. Paintball Nerd interns.
Otherwise it gets really expensive,
It does, yeah.
Dylan does great work. You have to expect to pay for that.
Yeah.
So, from a Go Sports perspective, I keep saying Go Sports, Major League Paintball, MLPBplus.com perspective, you're hiring this character to come out and make content. Then you're hiring a videographer to film everything, edit everything, post it. Maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Because I know it is expensive. It's like, it's not like, we're not like network television paid like that, but for what is created, it's expensive. It's expensive. Totally. So I get it. It doesn't make sense financially for a company like Go Sports to have a team of people making social media content. It's like, Zyzek, get out there with your cell phone, get content that lives for 5 days on the internet, and then come back in a couple months and do it again, you know?
It's like go live in your hole for a few months, then come back out and go back.
Yeah, go sell real estate coaching and then come back and be a goofball.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this with a few other folks in the past year or so. I think there's a missed opportunity for the paintball community to lean on students or people that want to grow, right? I think we've got such a young generation or demographic that's in that 18 to early 20s when you're in college or high school and you're just looking for experience to build your resume early on. So there could be an opportunity out there to potentially have somebody come to these events, just gain knowledge, gain experience from you and your brand, and help you, edit or shoot, and then that way they can take something away too.
You got to be right, and I know you're right. In fact, there's got to be people out there that are coming up, and they're going to events. They're already there, and they're not there to make a living off of it. They just want to take photos or film. So, hey, if you're out there and you're listening to this, send me an email, Zyzek at paintballnerd.com. And if you want to be involved in Paintball Nerd content, then let's hook up, let's make it happen.
It's going to happen by the first event in Tampa. I think that's the first event, right? Yeah. We're going to get you somebody on your staff.
Yeah. And also someone for your staff, someone to carry around your backpack, help you change lenses, stuff like that.
Man, my wife has offered at every single event, and I just feel so bad by saying like, hey, no, it's okay. Like, so
do you know what you're offering, lady? You're going to be walking around this event aimlessly. Yes. It's going to be awful for you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's something vulnerable I need to do. I need to do a better job of like receiving help that someone's offering to give. Cause I'm always like, no, I got it. I'll take care of it. And then I just get exhausted later on because I had to do it myself.
Good wife, man. She wants to support you and your passion.
She's incredible.
Let her do that.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't be here doing all the crazy paintballness, photos and now podcasts if it wasn't for her support. So I think we're all very thankful for our paintball supporters and spouses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a few more questions for you. Before I do that, I actually have a show sponsor for the first time.
Yes.
Like you want to talk about the little kid in me like freaking out. And, when I was younger playing paintball, I would just dream of what it would be like to be sponsored. Never happened, of course, but then here I am, 20, 30 years later, like I now have a legit sponsor. And so BFP gear. Yeah. So
Junior, Gina.
Yeah, Junior and Gina Brown, they've just been so incredible to work with over the past 2 years and getting to know them and building a relationship, with, of course, the work that they do with and for Dynasty and me helping them build that brand and tell that story. When I first started the podcast, Junior called me and he was like, hey, I want to support this from day one. What can I do? And I was like, wait, what? You want to sponsor me? And so I am so thankful for BFP Gear coming on as one of the sponsors of the podcast. They are running just absolutely insane deals and sales right now until the end of the year. I think I saw they're giving Dynasty paint away for a year. Like that's crazy. Dynasty paint for a year. BFPgear.com. And then the other thing, as I'm looking at, I've got a bunch of jerseys hung up on my wall. They're giving away a full set of Dynasty jerseys from this past season, including some folks that have already left the team. So yeah, it's an honor to be a part of a company that is doing such good things for the sport. So BFP Gear, Junior, Gina, thank you so much for being a show sponsor. It means the world to me. So a few more questions for you. This one, I've been like dying to know. Everyone asks, what's your favorite paintball moment from playing? And I know you've been asked that before. I want to know what's been your favorite paintball moment being on the media side so far.
My favorite moment. Gosh, there's lots of moments, but I'll tell you, I nearly cried when Paintball Fit won World Cup. It was just so emotional. It was so special. It was unexpected. It's got everything that you want. everything that you want in a high level competition just delivered, you know. They were down 2 points. There was a minute left against the best team in the world, one of the best teams in the world, arguably the best team in the world. They scored 2 points in 1 minute to tie it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then this rookie team defeats Impact in overtime? What?
Wild.
Dude, the crowd, the energy from the crowd was amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't stop laughing. I could not stop smiling. I was so happy for Paintball Fit. You know, I know how hard everyone's worked to get there. I know how much JD loves his boys and loves his team. Sarah loves her boys and loves her team. I know how hard these kids work. You know, I'm seeing all these things. Oh, you know, Mouse and Rainey and Marcelo, you know, they're going to Impact and this is happening. And you know, Connor Kelly leaves this team and that team. And you know, all these shifts are happening. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, yeah, you know, typical crazy off-season stuff. But Paintball Fit won World Cup and those kids are still playing 5 times a week.
They're machines. They really
You
are.
know? They changed, dude. They changed the narrative, bro. Like, it's hard for me to even care about what else is happening because I want to see what happens with Paintball Fit next year.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I talked to Colt right after he won. I was like, hey, man, you just made history. And he said, watch me next year. We're going to win every event next year. And how do I refute him on that? How do I doubt him on that?
Yeah.
They did something amazing at World Cup. So, you know, outside of the amazing experiences that I've had with my friends at paintball events, you know, just being there at events and spending time with the people that I love, this last World Cup and watching that happen for Paintball Fit is really high on the list.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel like that 10 minutes, whatever it was for that last few points, like it shifted where paintball is going. It was almost like a doors open for not only a new team to come in, but also how teams are going to need to play and practice moving forward, right? Because I think the past 10 years, it's been, hey, let's get a bunch of guys to fly around for a week or two and do like these layout weekends and then show up and rip it on the field. But like Paintball Fit is building a new standard for what you're going to have to do to compete.
And, you know, they're not exactly physically paintball ideal. Those dudes are huge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're tall and they got one small guy, Chavez. He's you know, he's got a paintball physique, but these rest of these guys could be, you know, real athletes in like football and stuff. They're big dudes, right?
Yeah.
So they're not they don't have the physical attributes that most people think when they think about top level paintball players.
Yep.
But they will kick your ass because they play paintball more than any other team out there. No question about it. It's not even up for debate. They play paintball more than anyone else, and they do so together.
Yep.
Together they play that much. Of course they're going to win, dude. Of course they're going to change the narrative. All right? These guys are crushing it. Let's see what happens with them next year. I mean, maybe I'll step on my tongue.
I'm all for it. You know, it's going to be such a good story. And I think all of us in the media, like we've got such an opportunity to be able to tell that story and continue telling where they go, whether it's triumph or failure or a mix of all of it. So it's, I'm excited to see what Paintball Fit's journey is.
Yeah.
I'm glad you touched on that for like what one of your favorite moments was. Cause when I was preparing for the show and trying to find a clip to use, I actually almost chose the clip where you were standing in the pits, I think, in the moment that they won. And I think, didn't you capture Sarah and JD hugging and embracing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I almost chose that clip. Can I ask during that finals, because there's so much going on, right? There's fans, there's VIP, there's winners, there's losers. how did you make that decision to go into Paintball Fit's pit when they were looking like they were going to lose?
I didn't think that. And I went back and forth a lot. You know, when there was a minute left and Impact was up 2-0, guess whose pit I was in? I was in Impact's pit, waiting for, you know, to film the victory. This just blows my mind just talking about it. So Fit comes back, so I run back, I run to the other pit because they're on opposite sides of the field, you know. Yeah. So I run over there. I'm standing there, and then they score another point, and they go to overtime, and I just stayed there. I'm like, I think they're gonna win. I believe that they're gonna win this tournament right here in overtime. But even if they don't, I get to capture history because they're still a rookie team that made it to the finals. And I want to see, you know, I want to see the reaction. So that's how I made that decision, was just like, this is the place to be. This is the reaction to get. This is the story that I want to get. Impact has won tons of events. Not to say who cares, but this is a new, like the Fit thing is a new story, and I want to see it play out. You know, funny thing about Paintball Fit, you know, Dylan's always been a raving fan of Paintball Fit. And when they first came onto the pro scene, Dylan told me, I think they're the best team in the world.
Wow.
And I went, no, they got a while, buddy. They're you know, give them a couple of years. They got to figure out the pro level. You know, remember AC Dallas? They got mowed. They got relegated. Give them time, you know. And I wasn't talking shit. I was talking reality. You know, I think I felt like they had a lot to learn. And so I talked to Dylan after they won. I'm like, dude, remember that conversation we had? And it was just special because, you know, it's vindication for Dylan because he's always been a raving fan and always had tremendous amount of faith in every player on Paintball Fit, and always believed that they would be a top team. And you can't argue that they are. They're certainly a top team.
Yeah.
You can't win World Cup. Shit don't float, you know?
It's true. You know, it's almost like we're living a new version of the Iron Kids, right? Like it's a blue collar. No one even thought they would do okay. Like everyone dismissed them, and here they are. They're going to start proving everybody wrong, just like they did years ago.
And Dan, you know, like multiple times, the opposing team throughout the tournament would headhunt. And, you know, it's one thing to like overshoot someone when you bunker them. I get that. You know, I've been in the sport. I understand how that happens. I understand wanting to do that.
Yeah.
There becomes a new level of intentionality where you bunker someone up, right?
Yeah.
You go and you shoot them, and you put them in the body, put them in the pack, and then you aim in their head and put some in their head as well. It's super intentional, super malicious. And you do it because you're sending a message, right? And usually it works. Sometimes it works. You communicate that message. It's kind of an FU, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If you do that to Fit, they don't do anything. They just get off the field and whoop your ass the next point.
Yeah.
They shake it off, dude. It's just, I'm a raving fan right now.
Yeah, same. You know, I've bled blue for most of my life, but like that Paintball Fit red's starting to creep in a little bit.
Well, they got some blue in there too. They got red, white, and blue. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that I totally forgot to prepare you for, so I'm sorry, I'm going to throw you on the spot here. One of my favorite features of your podcast is when you ask somebody, what's your favorite piece of paintball memorabilia or your favorite thing that you own in paintball? I don't think anyone's ever asked you, what is one of your favorite pieces?
Well, so if you would have prepared me for this, I would have shown you an awesome jersey collection. I've got the 4 Horsemen Dynasty jerseys, Ryan, Oliver, Alex, and Yosh from when they won, when Oliver came back and they won World Cup. I have signed jerseys from that. Those are special. I got a Brian Bonini old school Ironman jersey.
Wow.
I have all my Ironman jerseys, all of my jerseys from when I played amateur. I've got some really cool jerseys from Trauma, from Cap. So I got a bunch of cool jerseys.
Oh, cool.
But I don't have anything here to show you as far as jerseys, but I do have So here's a little collection of things here. So when Chris Lasoya came out with his Hormesis headbands, so when him and I competed against each other, I would call him the pony, and I'd always like do the ponytail thing and like prance around.
Yeah.
And so when he came out with his Hormesis headbands, he gave me the Pony Express.
Oh, wow.
Pony Express headband. So this is super special to me. This is something that I will never wear.
Yeah.
I'd never take it out of here. This is just a like a special little gift that Chris gave me. So that stays here.
Wow.
It's a part of the background for the podcast. And then this here is the headband that Alex gave me. I actually wear this headband, so it's not in the box. But I also have some. What are these? What is this? Some kind of coin. So black coins. They give these to old farts.
Yeah.
To basically say thanks for being an old fart. So I got a couple of black coins. But really why I hold on to this box and everything is because when Alex started Hormesis, he sent me a headband. It was black at the time. It's now gray. It's faded. But he also sent me this beautifully worded love letter. Yeah,
He's got such a big heart. I love Alex.
But he does. What he wrote to me, it meant a lot to me that he because I've always looked up to Alex, always, not only like as a player, but just as a person in general. I loved his sense of humor. I love his artistic capability. I love that he paints. He's painted some pictures of the Dynasty guys that I just thought were incredible. He's got one of BC where it's like BC's making his face like, and it looks just like BC, but it's like super stylized. So I've always loved everything about Alex, and for him to send me this headband with this note was super special, even if it is just like a little bit of a marketing ploy to get me to make a post or something. I don't think it was. I think he meant it. It felt like he meant it.
That's totally genuine from him.
Oh, totally, dude. I was just messing around. I've got a book from Marcelo.
Yeah.
So,
I have scoured the internet for one of those, by the way.
I'll sell it to you for $8 million.
You
wouldn't want this one though, because it's got Marcelo wrote a note to me.
I mean, that would be a one of one, so it's worth even more.
Thank you for the support. Thank you even more for being a great person and player for me to look up to when I was a kid. I will always remember those roots. Hopefully I am making you OGs proud, Marcelo.
Oh, wow.
Great. What a great kid.
And then just to see like what he's doing now too in the sport that's so cool.
And he's not even a kid. This guy's a grown man, but when I met Marcelo, he was a child, literally a child, 10 years old, maybe. And a little bit scared to get shot in paintball, and to see what he's become is incredible. Yeah. I got the famous book, can you see that?
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I won't take that down. Just because, we're not going to flip through it or anything.
Yeah.
I've got my, off-field. So Dylan and I won these at Vegas 2023 off-field content of the year. We both got this award because we took part in that content together.
Yeah.
And then a couple guns here I'll show you.
Okay.
So this is my Ollie Lang DM9.
Wow.
This gun shoots. This is the best gun I've ever shot.
Wow.
I mean, it has a macro line and everything, but it just shoots amazing. I love the way these old spool valves shoot. They're not the most efficient, but the smoothness and the sound signature is something that I absolutely love. So I had this for, well, since 2009. It's an old gun.
Wow.
And then this is the oldest gun that I have. So I used to work at Dye and build autocockers with Billy Wing.
Wow.
And it's blurry. Let me get in there.
There you go.
Can you see the tattoo on it? The Iron Man tattoo and the skull.
Wow.
It's got my number 117.
Holy
so
cow.
and see this little skull right here?
Yeah.
That came from a Lisa Harvey sticker. Lisa Harvey was a model in paintball, and she had these little stickers that had skulls on them. So I said, let me get one of those. So with this gun, what happened was I polished the body, I put the stickers on it, then I bead blasted it, and I took the stickers off.
Wow. What a cool effect.
Left the kind of the tattoo on there. I got the Iron Man shield there in the back, and it's got my name right there. Can you see my name?
Oh, yeah, on the bottom part. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a cool memento.
And then on the front block here, it says SKW.
Okay.
Shoot, kill, win.
Shoot, kill, win. Yeah. I mean, that's an iconic, part of paintball.
And then right here, it says POW, because we used to say, give me a POW.
Give me a POW. That's so cool.
Yeah. And then it's got Danny Love's gunfighter frame on it. So it's super, super short, quick trigger pull. Yeah. And I just got another trigger I have to install. This company made a better trigger for this, which I have to test out. So I'll make a video on that when I do that. And this gun is basically like a shelf gun. Oh, there's a cobweb on it. I don't use it that much. It's a good relic. Yeah, it's a good relic. It's beautiful. I love it. But, I'm more concerned with keeping it nice than I am playing with it. So
yeah, it's a piece of history at this point, especially for you, but for the game itself.
Yeah. Got a little twist. Yeah. Oh yeah, it still comes out. Oh, nice, Oh, it's got an Iron Man shield right here in the front. Can you see that? I got to get out of the frame. There it is.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there it is. Wow.
16-inch 2-piece
I'll say
ultralight.
Old school. Yeah.
Reach out and touch someone with this.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I remember being back, when I was younger, like when the 16-inch was the Dye boomstick? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
When that first came out, and I was like, wow, I feel so far away from like the edge of the barrel, but hey, it was supposed to increase my accuracy by whatever percent it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, like
maybe a better player.
300%,
yeah,
something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so cool. Thanks for sharing some pieces of your personal collection.
Do I have anything else cool? I've got these. So these are my first ever Sandana collab headbands.
Oh, rad.
So these are Paintball Nerd exclusive colors. You got orange because orange is my favorite color.
Yeah.
And then I got blue because Paintball Nerd is blue.
Blue.
So these are these are one of 30 and one of 27. So I'm not selling these. I still got a few on my website, but and then I got a Oliver Lang barrel kit, which I originally purchased this to sell it. And I fell in love with the Aculock barrel system.
Yeah.
Even though I got history with Dye and I love the Dye barrels, the Aculock lines up better than any barrel.
They've done such a great job with it.
It's not even a question, bro.
Yeah.
Like all the, and I'm not trying to put down any other companies. They don't line up.
Mm-hmm.
The barrels don't line up anymore. Barrels today do not line up except for the Aculock. So I ended up keeping this Oliver Lang barrel kit. It's black with the Legends.
Legends, yep. I remember when that came out.
Legends back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I haven't played with it yet, but I fully intend on doing so.
Yeah. That's so cool. Man, thanks.
I'm not sure if all of them come with this, but I got one of these too.
Oh, signed too? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it. That's what I got to show you.
You've got
I have so much more, Dan, but just not in this office.
Yeah, so I think for the next time I bring you on, I'll definitely prepare a little bit better, and I'll ask you that question ahead of time because I would love to see some of those jerseys. I think that'd be great.
Dude. I got a bin full of them.
Yeah, I bet. Oh. So what's next for Zyzek? What's next for Paintball Nerd?
So, I do want to do another. I want to do more podcasts. Start having guests on again. It's been a while since I've done that. Quite frankly, I just lack the time and motivation to do so because I've got a demanding job right now. And it's different, because when you ask me to do it, it's like all I got to do is say yes. It takes no effort. I just got to say yes and show up. But, what people don't understand is trying to get people on your schedule and find a time that works for them and works for you. It's a lot to it, right? So I've kind of trailed off on doing interviews. I want to get back to doing that. But probably the low-hanging fruit for me and what you'll see sooner rather than later is I've got to do a video on the trigger that I mentioned for the autococker. I got some headbands from Charm City Paintball.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I love Charm City. That's the head wrap that I wear. I love Charm City.
So I've got these two headbands. I haven't even opened them yet because I just want to do it on camera and talk about them. So he sent me two pieces here. They're sealed. So in the near future, I'll do a video on these and talk about what Mike's made. He's making really cool things. So I'll do that. So just a couple of product videos, maybe an interview here in the near future, but you're going to see me at events. I'm going to continue to go to events and make event content.
Cool. That was the most important part. I was hoping you would say it's always like there's certain people at events when you see them, you're like, yes, like you just fill up like your meter, and it's always good to see you at events.
Well, you're one of those people for me.
I appreciate that.
Look forward to seeing you. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So, well, hopefully GoSport or MLPBplus.com doesn't change, but as far as I know, they plan on bringing me out. So we'll see.
People need their Paintball Nerd content, especially at events. So I'll put in a call and be like, hey, we need them there.
Yeah. Call Bart, shake the tree.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been ending my show with is there's another podcast that I enjoy, and they always end their podcast with, they allow the guest to ask a question to the next guest without knowing who that guest is. It's really cool. It's a cool concept. And so like I've had questions, some serious questions so far, some silly questions. I think one of the questions that somebody asked is cereal a soup, or is it a chowder? And like that, see, that reaction is what I've seen from everybody so far. And so the question for you, actually,
who asked this question? Do I get to know?
Yeah, totally. So Archie Barnes Jr. asked this question, and it's
ABJ.
It's actually, ABJ. It's actually a really good question. So his question is: if you were a pro player today, and were getting paid a salary from anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 a year, what would you do with that money?
Archie, $50,000 is 5 times the amount of $10,000. So my answer to the question depends on how much it would be. Maybe I would just build a sweet go-kart. Maybe I'd take my family out for a nice seafood dinner. Or maybe I'd put away for my kids' college. But we're talking about different, varying degrees of money. But either way, $10,000 to $50,000 is not enough to support a family. So depending on my financial situation, I might use that to support my family, or I might use it for fun. That's not what Archie's looking for. Archie's looking for a fun answer. So I would take the $50,000 and fund an expedition to find fossils for the Leviathan illustrated in the Bible, in the book of Job.
That's an incredible answer. That's great. That's exactly what he was looking for. Thanks for that. And now you get to give that to somebody else. And so you get to ask a question for whoever the next guest will be on the show. And I get to ask them.
And I don't get to know who that is.
No. And so, like, again, it could be anything. It could be paintball related, like whatever you choose. And they'll know it's coming from you.
Okay. Are we human beings the product of purposeful intelligence or the result of countless cosmic accidents?
Okay. I love it. And knowing who my next guest is, I think it's probably going to be a really good answer.
Sweet.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Zyzek, thank you so much for being on the show. It was such an honor when you said yes. You've been such a big part of my paintball journey, like getting into the paintball media, consuming your content, and then being able to see you at events and get to know you. So it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you.
Me too. My pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.